It was always cold at the veranda of the house. The cold breeze from the Harmattan season would bite into Junior's skin every night, but that was the only place he was allowed to sleep. Months ago, his uncle's wife had chased him out of the small, worn-out room he used to stay in. "You don't deserve a roof over your head," she had screamed that night, her eyes filled with hatred. "You're a useless boy, a stray dog, that's what you are." She had pushed him out of the room like he was trash, shutting the door behind him. That night, Junior sat on the hard concrete floor of the veranda, shivering. He searched behind the house and found an old, torn blanket that had been thrown away. It was dusty and smelly, but it was all he had. He wrapped it around himself tightly and lay there, teeth chattering, eyes wide open as the cold wind blew over his small, fragile body. Since that night, the veranda had become his new bedroom. No mattress, no pillow, just the rough floor and the blanket that barely covered him. Each night, he cried silently, biting his lower lip so no one would hear. He missed his mother. He missed the warmth of her arms and her soft voice telling him stories at night. But she was gone, and this was now his reality. This Monday morning wasn't any different, except that something wet suddenly splashed all over him. Cold, sharp, unexpected. Junior jumped up with a gasp, the soaked blanket sticking to his skin. His eyes fluttered open, still heavy from sleep. Water dripped from his short hair down to his bony shoulders. Before he could even focus his eyes properly, he heard that familiar, annoying voice. "You are still asleep?" It was Uncle Silas. "Are you following me to the farm today, or you're going to that your useless school?" Junior quickly sat up, wiping his face with the back of his hand. His uncle continued, voice firm and without a trace of care. "You know if you go to school, no food for you today. But if you will follow me to the farm, carry a plate, come and collect your 2 pieces of yam." Junior looked down at the wet floor. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. Uncle Silas turned and began to walk away, but not before adding, "You know where to find me when you have decided." Junior sat still, the water still dripping from his clothes, his mind torn. School or food? His eyes welled up with tears, but he quickly wiped them away. This was his life now, for Junior, and it had been like this for months. But it wasn't always this way. Junior's life used to be warm, filled with love and laughter. He once lived in a neat little bungalow with his parents. There was always food on the table, clean clothes in the wardrobe, and a bedtime story every night. His mother would kiss his forehead after prayers, and his father would lift him onto his shoulders and call him champ. But everything changed 4 years ago. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon. His parents had gone to visit a family friend. Junior stayed home with the maid because he was sick, but they never returned. A car accident. That's what the neighbors said. Their car collided with a trailer. Both of them died instantly. Junior was only 8 years old. After their burial, he was sent to live with his father's younger brother, Uncle Silas, in the village. At first, he thought he would still be loved. That's what his parents would have wanted. But life had other plans. From the very first week, things began to change. Auntie Rhoda, Uncle Silas's wife, didn't hide her hatred for him. "This one is not my child," she told Silas one night, loud enough for Junior to hear. "I did not sign up to feed another person's child. Let him earn his food." Junior quickly learned what that meant. He became the house help. The food in the fridge? Not for him. "Don't even look at it," Auntie Rhoda warned one day when she caught him staring at a bowl of jollof rice. "If you touch anything in this kitchen without permission, you'll sleep with an empty stomach for 3 days. Do you understand?" From that day, he ate only when they remembered. And even then, it was scraps. Burnt rice, leftover yam peels, or watery soup with no meat. But his duties? Oh, they never forgot those. He washed all the dirty clothes, sometimes 5 or 6 buckets full. He cleaned the toilets, mopped the floors, scrubbed the bathroom walls until his fingers hurt. He fetched water from the well, even when his legs were trembling from hunger. Every morning, by 5 a.m., he was already up, mop in hand, sweeping and cleaning the house while everyone else is still sleeping. At night, when his cousins were lounging on the sofa, watching cartoons and playing video games with laughter and snacks in hand, Junior would be in the kitchen. "Junior!" Auntie Rhoda would shout from the living room. "Come and wash these dishes now." He'd walk in and find a mountain of greasy pots and plates piled high in the sink. Sometimes he was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open, but he dared not complain. Uncle Silas would be sitting in the corner, silently watching. Not once did he speak up. Not once did he ask, "Has this boy eaten? Or why is he the only one working?" He simply sat there, arms folded, as if Junior was invisible. Junior's small hands had become rough and hard from washing and scrubbing. His eyes had lost the spark they once had. He had stopped smiling. He had stopped hoping. He wanted to go to school. He wanted to learn. He wanted to be something more than this. But every day, he had to choose between feeding his belly or feeding his dreams, and it was killing him slowly. Uncle Silas had never hidden how he felt about Junior. To him, Junior wasn't family. He was a burden, a mouth too many to feed. Every single morning, like clockwork, he would stand over Junior's sleeping figure on the veranda and bark the same cruel question. "Are you following me to the farm today, or going to that your useless school?" It was never really a question. If Junior chose to follow him to the farm, he would receive 2 miserable slices of yam, barely enough to quiet his growling stomach, let alone give him strength to work under the burning sun. But if Junior said the word school, that was when the nightmare truly began. Uncle Silas would raise his hand and slap him across the face. "You are crazy," he'd shout. "Who will pay your school fees? Who do you want to impress?" Then he would drag Junior by the shirt and fling him outside the compound like a thief. "Go now. No food for you today or ever, rubbish boy." It was the same thing, every single day. Still, Junior always chose school. He didn't know how, but deep inside him, he believed something better was waiting for him if he just held on. Something his parents would be proud of. That morning, it was Tuesday. The wind was dry and heavy with dust. Junior had woken up with a pounding headache. His mouth was dry, and his stomach rumbled so loud it scared a nearby chicken. He hadn't eaten that morning, or the day before. But it was exam day, and he couldn't miss it. He pushed himself off the hard cement floor, slowly folding the tattered blanket he used every night. His legs shook as he stood, but he pressed his lips together and forced them to stay strong. There was no time to cry, no energy to waste. He wore the same shirt he had worn the day before, and the day before that. It used to be white, but now it was a sad shade of gray. The buttons were missing, so he used a safety pin to hold it together. His shorts were old and faded, torn badly at the back and patched multiple times with needle and thread. His socks were mismatched, one green, one brown. He had picked them from different trash bins months ago. His shoes were nearly useless, holes in both soles. Each step on a stone sent a sharp pain to the bottom of his feet, but he still wore them with quiet dignity, walking like nothing was wrong. Junior's hair was uncombed and dusty. The Harmattan breeze made it dry and brittle, and he hadn't seen a comb in weeks. Junior's steps were weak and slow as he made his way down the dusty road, heading for school. His stomach felt hollow, twisting with hunger. The little strength he had left was fading fast. But he needed to eat, at least something, because he knew what was waiting for him at school. The cane. He hadn't paid his school fees, and that meant punishment. But Junior had become used to pain. He just needed food to help him bear it. He turned down a small street and walked to the back of a local restaurant. That was his usual spot, to pick up leftover food that customers didn't finish. Sometimes he found half-eaten rice, sometimes meat bones, sometimes just scraps of bread soaked in oil. But today, the place was empty. The cooks were still sweeping and arranging chairs. The food pots hadn't even been opened. The day hadn't begun, and the customers hadn't started coming in. There were no leftovers yet. Junior searched the ground anyway, hoping for crumbs from the day before. Nothing. Maybe another hungry child like him had already come before him. His throat was dry. His hands trembled, but he didn't stop. He walked slowly to the back of the bakery down the street. On good days, they threw away burnt loaves or doughy rejects. It wasn't much, but it filled his belly. But today again, nothing. The ovens hadn't even started. The workers were just arriving, some still laughing and sipping hot tea. Junior looked around one last time, praying for a miracle, but saw nothing but empty sacks and flour dust on the floor. He sighed, pressing his hand on his rumbling belly. He had no choice. He had to go to school like that, on an empty stomach. No food the day before, no food this morning, just hunger, hope, and a heart full of pain. When he reached the school, he quietly walked to his class and sat down at the back. His bones ached. His body felt light, like he could float away. His clothes were dirty and torn, his socks still mismatched, and his shoes barely held together. He looked up at the old wall clock above the blackboard. 7:58 a.m. His heart skipped. In exactly 2 minutes, the headmaster would arrive. Mr. Johnson. Everyone in the school feared him. He was known for flogging students who didn't pay their fees, and he made sure the punishment came with public shame. No pity, no second chance. Junior's heart pounded like a drum. He tried to calm his breathing. His hands were cold and clammy. His mind kept drifting. What if they sent him home today? Today is the promotion exam, he reminded himself. If I don't write it, I'll repeat the class. Then the door creaked open. Mr. Johnson stepped in. Tall, dark-skinned, eyes sharp like razor blades, and in his hand was a long, thick cane. The class fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. The headmaster looked around slowly, like a lion searching for prey. Then he spoke. I know almost everyone in this class has paid their school fees, he said in a cold, slow voice. But there is one stubborn boy, one useless boy, who seems to come from the poorest parents on earth. The words hit Junior like a slap to the face. Mr. Johnson's voice grew louder. Yes, I said it. The poorest, the dirtiest, the most irresponsible boy in this school. He knows himself. Junior bowed his head in shame. His lips trembled. But before I count to 3, Mr. Johnson continued, raising the cane, that boy should stand up and run out of this class by himself. 1. Junior's heart thumped harder. 2. Tears welled up in his eyes. His body refused to move, but he forced himself to rise. His legs were heavy. His heart was crushed. With shame, he stood up and walked slowly to the front of the class. Mr. Johnson didn't even wait for the 3rd count. Before I open my eyes and close it, he barked. Disappear from this school compound. Don't come back here until you have money. Do I run this school with water or air? Junior stood still. His lips trembled. He swallowed hard and looked up at the man who held his future in his hands. Sir, he whispered, do it as you've always done it. Flog me and let me stay for the exam, sir. Please. The class gasped. Mr. Johnson's eyes flared. His voice thundered across the room. So you think this is a joke? You think I run this place for charity? He stepped forward, slapping his cane on the table. I said, get out. Go and bring your school fees. Don't beg me. I don't want to see your face here again until you come with money. Junior stood frozen. This was his only chance. If he missed this exam, everything he had suffered through would be for nothing. He would repeat the class. His dream of becoming something better would slip further away. He looked at the board. Other students were ready and the exam would be starting in an hour. He turned back to Mr. Johnson. But there was no pity in the man's eyes, only anger and pride. Junior's lips quivered. He turned slowly and began to walk toward the door. Each step felt like a stone on his chest. Tears rolled down his cheeks, not because of the hunger, not because of the flogging, but because he had tried. He had tried so hard, and once again, the world had told him he wasn't enough. As Junior walked away from the school gate, his chest tightened with disappointment. The pain in his stomach had grown worse, like his insides were tying themselves into knots. His head felt light. His eyes were hot with unshed tears. But as he reached the busy street corner, something sparked inside him. I can't just sit down and cry. I need to do something. That's when an idea lit up in his mind, born out of desperation. plastic bottles. He had seen other street children picking them to sell to recyclers. If he could just gather enough, maybe he could make a few hundred naira. Maybe, just maybe, he could raise something towards his school fees. Or at least buy some food to stay strong. Without wasting time, Junior began rushing from one gutter to another, checking every corner, every roadside, every motor park. His tattered school uniform clung to his thin frame like wet rags. The shirt had turned brown from dust and sweat. His old socks kept falling to his ankles, and the soles of his shoes flapped with every step. Still, he kept going. On his back was a torn sack bag, hanging from one shoulder, growing heavier with each bottle he picked. Sweat poured down his face, mixing with the dust, drawing faint lines on his cheeks like the marks of a child soldier. His hands were covered in grime, his fingers ached, but he didn't stop. His face was set like flint, eyes focused, unsettled. It was as if he was carrying the weight of the whole world on his tiny shoulders. People walked past him like he didn't exist, just another ragged boy picking trash. Nobody important, nobody to care about. But then she saw him. Fiona. A fruit seller in her mid-50s, Fiona had a roadside stall under a large umbrella shade. Her face was rough and darkened by years of standing in the hot sun. Her fingers were thick and firm, her arms strong from cutting pineapples, oranges, and cucumbers every day. Her eyes were red not from crying, but from dust, sun, and life. She was busy slicing up a pineapple when she noticed him. At first, she saw a shadow hover near her stall. Then she looked up and their eyes met. Junior wasn't begging. He didn't ask for anything. But the way he stared at her fruits, the hunger was screaming through his eyes. His gaze was fixed on the pile of apples and pineapples like he could eat them with his eyes. She followed the direction of his glance and then looked down at the sack on his back. That's when she saw empty plastic bottles, crushed soda cans, and water sachets. And then she noticed the uniform, the battered shoes, the dried, uncombed hair. A schoolboy scavenging trash during school period when he is supposed to be in class. Her heart clenched. She didn't need to ask if he was hungry. She had once worn that look too many years ago when life had beaten her down and left her with nothing but hope and hunger. Still slicing the pineapple in her hand, Fiona raised her head. "Hey boy," she called gently. Junior froze. He looked around, unsure she was talking to him. "You, yes, you. Come," she said, waving him over. He hesitated, but then his legs moved before his mind could argue. He walked up to the stall, nervous and unsure. As he got closer, the smell of the freshly peeled pineapple hit him again, sweet, juicy, and almost painful in how badly he wanted it. Fiona stretched out a piece toward him. "Do you care for some?" she asked with a soft smile. Junior didn't answer. He just nodded quickly and rushed forward. He grabbed the pineapple slice and shoved it into his mouth. He chewed like his life depended on eyes closed, body slightly trembling. Fiona watched him quietly. She had seen hunger before. She knew what it looked like. But this was deep. This was hunger mixed with shame, sadness, and exhaustion. "Boy," she asked softly, handing him another slice, "when was the last time you ate?" Junior didn't answer. His eyes dropped to the sidewalk. He shrugged. Fiona sighed. She gave him a third slice. "You don't have to lie," she said. "I know that look. I've worn it before." Junior looked up, surprised. Their eyes met. And in that moment, Fiona saw everything she needed to see. Pain, struggle, a child too young to carry so much burden. But there was something more. Determination. Despite the hunger, despite the shame, despite everything, this boy was wearing a school uniform and picking bottles. He wasn't stealing. He wasn't begging. He was trying. Even after eating, Junior's face didn't change. The stress was still there, sitting heavy on his brow like a weight too big to carry. Fiona leaned closer and lowered her voice. "What's your name?" "Junior?" he whispered. Fiona stepped closer to Junior. She could see the heaviness he was carrying. It wasn't just hunger, it was something deeper. She gently touched his shoulder. "Boy, what is the matter?" she asked, her voice low and kind. "Talk to me. I might be able to help." Junior didn't say anything. His lips were pressed together, and his eyes were still fixed on nothing, like he had left his body and gone somewhere far away. Fiona didn't walk away. She leaned closer and patted his shoulder again, this time with more warmth. "Tell me, my dear," she said softly. "Things might be tough now, but I promise you this is not the end." Junior slowly turned and looked at her. He stared into her eyes, as if trying to read her soul train to know if she truly meant what she was saying, or if she was just like everyone else. Then, without warning, his face twisted. His lips trembled. His shoulders shook. Tears rolled down his cheeks. My classmates are writing exams in school," he said through shaky breaths. "But I haven't paid my school fees." Fiona's heart cracked a little. She had seen many sad stories in her life, but something about this small boy standing in rags, hungry, tired, and heartbroken cut through her. This boy wasn't just hungry for food, he was hungry for a chance, a future. "How much is it?" she asked softly. Junior wiped his tears and slowly raised 5 fingers. "It's 5,000 naira, he whispered. Fiona paused for a moment. Yesterday she made 3,000 naira profit. Today, after a few early morning sales, she had 2,500 more. Altogether, 5,500. She reached into the small pouch in her apron, pulled out the money, counted it twice, and folded the notes gently into Junior's hand. "Here," she said, "go and pay your school fees. And after that, get yourself a real meal. Then, come and see me tomorrow. I'm always here." Junior stared at the money in his hand like it was a dream. His mouth opened slightly. His eyes widened. Why did you give me this?" he asked, voice cracking. Fiona smiled, her eyes warm but a little misty. "Because I was once hungry too," she said, "and someone helped me." Without another word, Junior clutched the money, whispered a tearful, "Thank you, Ma," and ran off faster than he had ever run in his life straight back to school. He arrived just before the paper began. The teachers were surprised, but allowed him in when he showed the payment receipt. He sat down, sweaty, dusty, still hungry but smiling. He wrote with fire in his heart. And that day was the beginning of something new. From that moment on, every single day after school, Junior would go straight to Fiona's fruit stand. And every day, without fail, Fiona would hand him a 500 naira note. Some days she'd tuck in an extra apple, other days a bunch of banana. On very hot days, she'd add a cold bottle of water. It became their routine. One day, she noticed his socks, brown from dust and full of holes. His shoes were worse, his toes peeking out from the torn soles. She didn't say anything. The next day, she handed him a small bag. Inside were a new pair of socks and a decent pair of shoes. Junior looked at her in disbelief. "Ma," he began, but she simply waved her hand. "No need to talk," she said. "Just wear them." She never asked too many questions. She just gave. And she gave with no strings, no pity, and no expectations. And Junior never asked for more. But slowly, something changed. He started to look forward to the 500 naira, but even more than that, he started looking forward to their daily chats. At first, the conversations were short. "How was school? How are you feeling? Do you need anything?" But then they began to talk like friends, like family. Fiona told him about her own life, how she raised 3 children alone after her husband abandoned them, how she once wandered the streets after losing her parents, looking for help that never came. Her pain was not too far from his, and every time she smiled, it was like the sun came out. Junior began calling her Mama. She never corrected him. She just smiled and said, "Come early tomorrow, Junior. I will keep something for you." One day, as Junior was picking through trash like he always did after school, he spotted something in a dustbin behind a printing shop. It was a laptop, cracked, dusty, and slightly burnt on one side. But it looked like it still had life in it. He pulled it out, wiped it down, and looked at it carefully. The screen was intact. The keyboard wasn't broken. The charger cable was even rolled beside it. He carried it home like treasure. With the small amount he had been secretly saving, bits from selling bottles, and tiny slices of his daily 500 naira from Fiona Hay, took the laptop to a local repairman. It cost almost all he had, but the man fixed it. And for the first time in his life, Junior had a tool to learn beyond the four walls of his school. He would go to the back of restaurants where the security guards let him sit quietly with his laptop. He would connect to free Wi-Fi and watch YouTube lessons, read articles, and learn math, science, typing, and anything else he could find. When Junior turned 16, he made a decision that had been growing quietly in his heart for years. He packed his few clothes, folded the tattered school uniform he had outgrown, slid his now well-used laptop into a backpack, and quietly left the small town he had once called home. He didn't tell any or not even Fiona. It wasn't because he didn't care. In fact, Fiona was the only person he ever truly cared about. But he couldn't bear to look her in the eyes and say goodbye. He knew if he saw her face, he might change his mind and stay. So he left a simple note tucked under a pineapple on her stall. "Thank you for loving me when the world didn't. I will make you proud, Junior." He walked away that night with nothing but hope in his chest and memories tucked in his heart like gold coins hidden in secret pockets. He remembered her smile, her kindness, the cold water on hot days, the fresh fruit, the simple question, "Boy, what's the matter?" and how it changed everything. He held on to those moments like lifelines. The new town he ran to was bigger, louder, more crowded. But Junior didn't care. He wasn't there to make friends. He was there to survive and to grow. He began working at a local gas station, wiping windshields and filling tanks. It wasn't much, but it gave him enough to eat and pay rent for a shared room with 3 other boys. He took any odd job he could find, washing cars, carrying goods at the market, even cleaning shops at night. Every naira mattered. But no matter how tired he was, no matter how late he returned from work, one thing never changed. He would carry his laptop, plug it in, connect to free Wi-Fi in front of a closed restaurant, and watch YouTube videos. That laptop was his classroom, his school, his escape. He started with the basics: typing lessons, how to use Microsoft Word, how to create simple documents. Then he moved on to website design, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. He watched quietly, rewinding when he didn't understand, taking notes on old exercise books he picked from trash bins. He practiced daily, building small web pages, copying codes line by line, until his fingers began to fly across the keyboard without thinking. It wasn't easy. Sometimes the laptop would freeze. Sometimes the power would go off. Sometimes he'd fall asleep with the screen still on his lap. But he never stopped. Then one night, as he sat outside the restaurant, eyes glued to the screen and sweat dripping down his face, YouTube made a random recommendation. A video. And that video, he clicked it, and that video changed everything. We'll continue the rest of this story in part 2. What do you think this video is about? Do you agree that just one video can change someone's life? Drop your thoughts in the below in the comment section. We love hearing from you. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the next part drops. Also, like and share this video to help it reach more people. Your support means the world to us and keeps us motivated to bring you more inspiring and educational stories. As always, see you in the next one.